The Colonial Era in India, Chapter 4 is our new topic that we are going to cover. Here we will see a long history of the British, how they annexed the India, what were the policies they used to follow, right? So let us start. So before going through the chapter, let us know the meaning of colonialism. So colonialism is a practice or policy in which a powerful country takes control over a weaker territory or nation, occupies it and exploit its resources, often politically, economically and culturally. The same thing has been done by the British to India, isn't it? That is the colonialism. It is a practice where a powerful country that takes control over a weaker territory or nation occupies it and then exploit its resources. This control is usually maintained through military force, political dominance and cultural assimilation. So this is the meaning of colonialism, right? Now, the age of colonialism was also there. During the age of colonialism, both Islam and Christianity spread significantly, but in different ways, with different impacts and often under very different historical circumstances. But the age of colonialism usually refer to the period in history that is 15th to 17th centuries when European powers established colonies across Asia, Africa and the America, Australia and many Pacific islands. Okay. So this is the age of colonialism usually referred by the historian, that is a period from 15th to 17th century where the British European power established their colonies across Asia, Africa, right? So this is the age of colonialism. Now, what were the key reasons of colonialism? Why this powerful country take control of the weaker territory? What is the reason behind it? Let us see. First of all, the main reason is the territorial expansion. It was a key reason for colonialism because powerful countries wanted to increase their land and global influence. That's why they came, they dominate, they exploit, and then they annex the kingdom. Second, spread of Christianity. So European powers wanted to spread Christianity. They believed it was their duty to convert local people to their religion. So this is also one of the factors due to which the colonialism, that is the practice, has been started. Third reason is adventure and exploration. Explorer wanted to discover new land and sea route. Many were motivated by fame, glory and the spirit of adventure. So in this way also they landed to a weaker or a very fully flourished kingdom, right? Fourth point is civilizing mission. So the civilizing mission was the belief that European power had a duty to civilize non-European people by spreading their religion, culture, education and values. So these are the key reasons why the colonialism took place. Okay. Now, why colonialism declined? However, it declined also. Because of independence movement, economic costs and the impact of World War, this colonialism declined. However, it takes a very long years to decline. Now, can colonialism be considered beneficial? While colonizers often claim they brought progress, colonialism mainly benefited the colonizers, like the Britishers only, isn't it? And caused exploitation, cultural loss, and long term harm to the colonized society, that is the Indian. So, here also the Britishers came, even though they claim they have brought the progress, but the India also lost, the cultural loss was there, economic loss was there, isn't it? And apart from it, long term harm to the colonized societies. So, this is about the just a starting of the chapter about the colonialism, right? The meaning is there, the key reason is there. Now we will start the chapter Europeans in India. Before the European, Persian, Greek, Roman, Central Asia, Arabs, Afghan and Mughal came to India through invasion, trade and conquest. Okay, they used to come to India. Now what is the attraction toward India? Why did they came? India attracted foreign powers because of its wealth, spices, silk, cotton, gold and trade opportunities. It was known for its rich natural resources, flourishing market and strategic location on ancient trade route, making it a valuable land for trade, conquest and control. That's why these foreign powers get attracted towards India. According to economist Angus Madison, India had one of the largest economies in the world before the European invasion. India accounted at least one-fourth of the world GDP, that is the gross domestic progress, making it one of the two largest economies globally alongside China, making it a global economic powerhouse mainly due to its thriving agriculture, textiles, and trade. So, before the invasion of the Britishers, this the economist Angus Madison described the economy of the India at the time, that India was accounted at least one-fourth of the world GDP, making it one of the two largest economy globally alongside China. It means how rich was their India because of its thriving agriculture, textiles, and trade. Okay, so India was very much rich. Now we will see one by one the European power who came to India, what did they do? Okay, the Portuguese commerce and atrocities. Vasco da Gama, Portuguese explorer and navigator, reached India by sea in 1498. He arrived at Kappat near Kozhikode in Kerala. He paved the way for the beginning of the European colonization in India. So the Portuguese were the first who came to India, and Vasco da Gama just opened the route for them. He just reached here by the sea route in 1498, and in this way the Portuguese entered to India. Now what did they do? What were their commerce or what did their business was there? The Portuguese captured and controlled key ports like Goa, Daman and Diu to dominate spice trade. Okay. They set up trade monopolies on spices, textiles and precious goods. The Kartaz system was a naval trade license introduced by the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean. So this system we have also studied in the rise of Marathas also, how the Marathas opposed this Kartaz system. It required all the ships to buy a pass from the Portuguese to legally trade or sail in the region. This helped Portugal control and monopolize maritime trade. Portuguese also built forts and trading ports to protect their commercial interests. So this is the way the Portuguese entered in India, and they capture and control the key ports. Later on, they monopolize the trade, isn't it? They implement the Kartaz system. So this was going on. Now, the atrocities were there by the British. The Portuguese forced conversion of local to Christianity, often by violence. They destroy Hindu and Muslim temples and religious places. They impose harsh taxes and slavery on local population. They engage in violent clashes with Indian rulers and communities, and they use military force to suppress resistance and maintain control. So in this way, the Portuguese enter in India, they do this type of commerce, and later on they also just humiliate the people also, isn't it? These were the atrocities they have done to the Indians. Rani Apagaka first and Rani Apaga second. So there is a small story about her. So the Rani Abaka first and Rani Abaka second, second was the successor of the Rani Abaka first, were brave queen of Ulal, a coastal town in present-day Karnataka, who fearlessly resisted Portuguese colonial forces in the 16th century. Rani Abaka first was the first to oppose the Portuguese, refusing to pay them tribute and defending her kingdom with skill and determination. Her legacy was carried forward by Rani Abaka II, who continued the struggle and led multiple battles to protect Ulal from foreign control. Rani Abaka II is famously known for using fireballs made of coconut shells filled with gunpowder in her battle against the Portuguese. So these fiery weapons were launched at enemy ships, camps, causing chaos and damage, and became a symbol of her strategic brilliance and fearless resistance, right? So this was mentioned in the textbook also about Rani Abaka and Rani Abaka first and second. So how they fearlessly opposed the Portuguese, right? So this is first the Portuguese came to India. After that we will see the Dutch commerce and competition. So how they entered? They enter in India. The Dutch arrive in India in the early 17th century through the Dutch East India Company established in 1602. What were the main trade interests? They mainly focus on the spice trade, especially pepper, cinnamon and cloves, as well as textiles and indigo. So they were mainly focused on trade only. Key trading centers were they established trading posts in the west coast, Surat, Bharuch, Cochin, Nagapattinam and Masulipattnam. competition. They initially competed with the Portuguese, later faced strong rivalry from the British and the French. Okay, so Portuguese were already there. So they initially competed with the Portuguese, later on with the British and the French also. The Dutch declined. Dutch suffered a major defeat in the Battle of Clausel in 1741 against King Marthananda Varma of Travancore, marking the start of their decline. And here the end of Dutch influence. By the late 18th century, the Dutch lost most of their trading posts and influence in India to the British. Okay, so these were the second European power who came to India. Now, after that, the French colonial ambition. Now, how did they enter in India? The French entered India in 1660s and later they founded French East India Company in 1674. What were the main objectives? They aimed to establish profitable trade and expand political control in competition with the British and other European powers. Now, their key leaders, Joseph Francois Dupleix, the Governor General of French India, played a major role in expanding French influence through alliances and war. Military involvement of the French. They took part in the Carnatic War, that is 1746 to 1763, against the British, trying to gain political power in South India. However, they were defeated by the British. They lost the Third Carnatic War in 1760 to the British, which marked the decline of French ambition in India. And what were the after effects? Though they lost political power, the French retained control of small settlements like Pondicherry, mainly for trade and cultural influence, right? So this is about the French. We have seen the Portuguese, the Dutch, the French, okay? Now, before coming to enter the British, we will see the duplex colonial strategy that was later adopted by the British in India. Okay. So, duplex supported rival Indian rulers in succession disputes to gain influence, a strategy later used by the British in princely states. He formed alliance with Indian Nawabs and king, offering military support in return for trade privileges and territorial control. He raised and trained Indian sepoys in European warfare, a model the British expanded into British Indian Army. He actively intervened in local politics, going beyond trade to establish indirect control, a method later formalized by the British. He also exploited internal rivalries among Indian rulers and kingdom, a strategy the British refined into their long-term divide and rule policy. So these were the colonial strategy that was later adopted by the British in India, but they have copied all this thing from the duplex, right? Now enter the British from traders to ruler. Enter the British from traders to rulers. So the British takeover of India was gradual rather than a classic military conquest. Instead of invading all at once, they used a combination of diplomacy, alliance, trade, and military support to interfere in local politics. How cunning they were. The British East India Company, established in 1600 by a charter from Queen Elizabeth I to trade with the East Indies. The British first arrived in India at Surat, Gujarat, and set up their trading post after getting permission from Mughal Emperor. Okay, Jahangir was there at the time. The British gradually established factories in Madras, that is Chennai, Bombay, and Calcutta. They obtained trading rights and land grant from Mughal rulers and local king in return for tributes and military help. Okay, so in this way, the British East India Company established by a charter, and then they gradually established their factories for the trade purpose. The British competed with the Portuguese, Dutch, and French for the control of trade and territory in India. By the late 18th century, the British East India Company became the de facto means in reality, even if not officially recognized, but in reality, the East India Company became the de facto, that is the ruler of large part of India, marking the true beginning of British colonial rule. Okay, now their rule has been started. So the British follow the strategy of divide and rule. What was there? Let us see. So strategy used by the British to create division and conflict among the different Indian communities, rulers and groups. The purpose was to weaken Indian unity and prevent a strong united opposition against British rule. So this is the main purpose of using this policy. It promoted religious differences between Hindus and Muslims, encouraging communal tension. The British supported rival princes and kingdoms against each other to keep them dependent on British support. The Battle of Plassey, that is 1757, was fought between the British East India Company, led by Robert Clive, and the forces of the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah. Robert Clive formed a secret alliance with Mir Jafar, that is one of the Nawab commanders, and other disloyal nobles who betrayed Siraj-ud-Dowlah during the battle. And what happened? The British won decisively with minimal forces due to betrayal within the Nawab camp. And it marked the beginning of the British political control in India and laid the foundation for the expansion of British rule over much of India, right? So after that, this line is there, and after that, this is there, right? Now we will see the doctrine of lapse. So I have converted the whole chapter in the point wise so that it may become easy for you to understood also, right? So let us see about the doctrine of lapse. It was introduced by Lord Dalhousie and Governor General of India at the time. He was appointed 1848 to 1856. According to the policy, if an Indian ruler died without a natural or biological male heir, his kingdom would lapse or be annexed by the British East India Company. Adopted sons were not recognized as legal heir under the policy, violating traditional Indian practices. Major state annexes include Satara, Jhansi, Nagpur, Awadh. It caused widespread anger and resentment among Indian kings and nobility. One of the key causes of the revolt of 1857, especially in case like Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi, whose kingdom was annexed under this policy. So the policy was abolished after the 1857 revolt when the British Crown took direct control of India, right? So we have seen the strategy of divide and rule, then the doctrine of lapse, subsidiary alliance. So till here we will do, and then the rest we will do in the second part, right? So subsidiary alliance. It was introduced by Lord Wellesley, the British Governor General of India in the late 18th century. According to it, Indian ruler had to keep British troops in their territory. They had to pay for the maintenance of these troops. Rulers could not make alliance or war without British permission. A British resident was stationed at the ruler court, and it led to the loss of sovereignty and increased British control. The ruler of Hyderabad was among the first to enter such an alliance in 1798. This alliance helped the British expand their control over Indian territory without direct war. It weakened Indian states and paved the way for full British domination over India. See, subsidiary alliance, doctrine of lapse, then the policy of strategy of divide and rule. So these were the things the British started. Here we have seen instead of invading all at once, they use a combination of diplomacy, alliance, trade and military support to interfere in local politics. So this was the Britishers who take over India gradually, isn't it? So we will do this much till here, and then later on we will continue the chapter in the part 2, right? So this was the colonial era in India, chapter 4, the part 1, and we will continue the rest chapter in the part 2. So this much for this video. If you are watching, then thank you for watching until the end.